me my parents, Daniel and Lata, who've been married for 26 years now. They just celebrated their wedding anniversary yesterday, and so I thought it would be good to bring them on board and ask a few questions to them about marriage, because marriage is a subject that a lot of people have a lot of questions about, and it's something that people are constantly learning about while they are married or even before. And it's something that they have a lot of wisdom to share, at least that's what I feel, and I think a lot of people around us have seen their lives and they feel the same way. And so I posted on Facebook and Instagram asking you guys for questions, and I got a lot of questions from you, as well as some questions that they have been asked previously in certain seminars that they have conducted on marriage. And I put them together, and so we just get to it, right?
Yeah.
So I think the first question, the right place to start will be, where did you guys meet?
We had a common family friend who introduced each other's family, and that's how, so it was a purely arranged marriage. So we didn't know each other, and that's how we got married. So we met one evening, and the following evening we were engaged, and within 3 months we were married. And interim period we had a lot of communication through letters, and we got to know a little bit about each other, otherwise we were total strangers.
For me, it was a culmination of a long journey of search for that bride. And this was yet another of those occasions when I was asked to come by to see if this particular person would suit me in marriage. Anxiety of parents were understandably there. And so this was my trip that I came down from Bombay to meet with what my family thought was going to be a level of mutuality, but they wanted us to make decisions, so that was the meeting that was talked about, where we met and then unfolded our relationship.
And so since you guys got married like pretty quickly and you didn't know each other much before marriage, so the second question that came up was, what was the biggest lesson that you learned in your first few months of marriage?
One incident which comes to my mind, which was very impactful for me, especially, was because we didn't know each other. So the first, when we lived together, the first thing was, when you get up, what do you have for a beverage, whether it's coffee or tea? So that was my question to Daniel in the first weeks of our marriage, and he said it was tea. And I am a great coffee lover, and especially in the mornings. So then I decided, okay, if he likes tea, maybe I should make tea for myself as well. And that's how I ended up making 2 cups of tea daily in the morning, and we were having it for about a week. His sister was living in Bombay with her family, and we went and spent a weekend with them. And that's when his sister asked me in the night, Lata, what do you want to drink in the morning? And then she added after that, Daniel likes coffee. So it took me by surprise, because I was thinking he likes tea. And I said that, okay, I'll have coffee. I just said that. And then I went back to him and I said, why did you say tea when you like coffee? So he said, no, I thought you are from the north, so you must be drinking tea. So I thought, why to trouble you, I'll also drink tea. And that impacted me a lot, because here was a man who was a total stranger, but yet he was willing to give up his likes, what he liked, what he must be having for past 30 years. And he just gave it up in one shot because of a wife who has come from the north and who he believed would be loving tea. So I decided that that was something, and to give up really what you like or dislike, I think it is very, very important. That's what a great thing I learned.
That's important. What about you?
Fortunately for me, I had mentally prepared for marriage. And in a way, first lessons were already in my mind. It was more for me with marriage to live it And given the fact that the spouse comes into the marriage with a lot of fears, anxieties, questions, my goal was then to facilitate richly moving into a position of trust. So the first few experiences were more towards building that trust, building that level of confidence, notwithstanding all the fears that one would have carried on account of what one has actually experienced or heard about. So those are the things that I stand out to my mind as to what the foundational efforts at the beginning of marriage in my experience was.
So the next question is actually for my dad, specifically for him, because it's well known that in their 26 years of marriage, they have not had one single fight. And so this question was for him, asking that you have never fought in these 26 years. Does that mean that Lata has never done anything to upset you?
I'll pick up on the word upset, and I will dilate on that to answer the question. I believe getting upset involves an insistence on one's right or entitlement. Therefore, there's a play of ego. Secondly, when undergirded by a deeper and a serious aspect of the relationship, the take that one makes in a situation like that, is it worth getting upset or irritated? As rational beings, I believe we are quite capable of rationalizing based on values that we cherish. With the kind of understanding we have about the importance of this relationship, both for the ones involved as well as also for the children that are born as a result of the relationship, one faces and responds to various situations keeping these fundamentals in mind. So I would imagine that those were very much anchors by which I viewed various situations. And so I wouldn't think that being upset is just only a matter of how someone else behaves. It's also how one reacts. And I saved myself a lot of trouble on account of that way of thinking and approaching our experience.
So the next question is similar to that in the way that it says, how did you deal with differences in opinions? Because understandably both of you are from different backgrounds and different families, and so you might have certain areas where you have different opinions about how to live life. So how did you deal with that?
I grew up in a very strict background, and when I was young, during my exams, I was not allowed to to play or to read storybooks. And then when you were growing up, and I tried to make sure that you were doing the same thing which I had experienced, and that's when Daniel had felt that that is not really needed, because he felt that studies is more about learning and not just writing exams. So that was his opinion of raising a child was different than mine. But I just gave it up. I didn't really hold on to it, saying that that is how I was raised and I want my daughter to be raised like that. I never did that. So there is nothing to hold on to say that whatever the differences, relationship is much more important.
I believe different opinions would be inevitable, but then one has to work with the view that there is also scope for understanding. Now, by granting the scope for that understanding, one also validates the other individual. Because opinions are also again influenced by so many factors. So instead of viewing these as rigid and written in stone, one needs to, as Lata said, keeping the richness of the relationship that needs to be foremost. One needs to work to understand, share, and the process of thinking that needs to be enabled. And again, falling back upon our own capacities for rational thinking. It could be a set of circumstances led to a certain opinion and that can be modified without being in entrenched positions. That you need to really win this person over to the other opinion. I think an open, loving environment when created and is taught, and there is also already the type of trust that you work to build into the relationship. I believe that life can, in spite of different views and opinions, can take richer course.
And I think communication is very important. So if you have a difference in opinion, you need to explain to the other person why you think that way, or vice versa.
I fully agree, because communication brings out one's inner thoughts, inner feelings. So unless somebody is dumb, not falling upon communication, which is a capacity given for the relationship, I believe should be much used. By being willing to communicate, one is also reaffirming that the person on the other side is important, and that are strokes of dignity and respect that one is granting to the other individual, and that in turn soaks for the relationship to be capable of absorbing more than what in rigid positions one would absorb. So communication is very vital, highly recommended.
I think a lot of the questions were related to dealing with differences or dealing with issues that you might not like. So the next question is also very similar. It says how to deal with things that annoy or irritate you about your other half.
Once again, my personal view and recommendation is for mental repositioning. Annoyance. I would encourage oneself to rethink about what something causes annoyance, rather than hold it so rigid that this is annoying. So it switches the dynamics to the other side. Typically, one wants modification from the other. You change your behavior, you change your habit. It's quite reasonable for one to expect. But there are so many areas where possibly just shifting one's position straight away releases you. You have power over yourself. So why wait for something that you have to work on in order to bring the change? You can shift your position. Does that mean that it is a compromised position? Again, we have enough capacities for being selective and identifying those where you can really make a shift. It needn't be that that's the end of things. So things could change. Maybe your wife is keeping the house untidy, and you could possibly have grown in an environment where everything needs to be tidy, and you could possibly snap at her and say, "Why are you annoying?" You can, on the other hand, set an example that you are seen as one setting things right, and maybe over the course of time, your wife is also able to see the value of keeping the house clean, or in any other kind of situation not directly related to that issue of keeping the house clean or not clean. You possibly end up sharing because you got that trust, there's a friendship, and I think even working that relationship into a position of mutual admiration is also helpful because it makes communication effective. So there are multiple ways in which the richness of life can be derived. Definitely not always by quarreling and fighting over every bit.
And the next question is, this is something that I've heard a lot, and that is a common belief is that you can only show anger towards someone you love. But what are your views on that?
See, words are very, very hurtful. Anything you speak can hurt a person, can leave a scar, and it will remain with that person. You cannot undo it. So I think even in a relationship as close as a husband and wife, you cannot justify saying because you love the person you can be angry or speak anything that you want, because they are also human beings, and words have to be spoken with a lot of care.
Now, if you are talking about anger as in a drama, then it's a free for all. You can practice it even with your wife. But I am thinking that you are asking about genuine anger. Genuine anger is a build-up of so much of hatred or so much of disappointment, so much as if everything is lost. I rather think that man develops capacity to restrain it, and more so in the matter of marriage, because from what we hear by and large, marriage is a very valuable institution. Psychologically, we are all in a way designed that we need that special level of comfort, assurance, belonging to one another. So if one may say, that's the prime base in which the fuel of life energy is drawn. How would you demolish it? How would you say that that built up emotion which is genuinely angry needs a receptacle in your wife or your spouse because it gives you that power over your spouse? I think that is wrong assumption, and I think we need to safeguard and not be foolhardy in thinking that this is the best place for it to have an outcome.
The next question is, do you share every single thing with each other? How transparent is your relationship?
I think our relationship is very, very transparent. We share everything. Our communication level is very high. It's just like because we are friends, so we share everything. I don't think there is anything which is hidden from him, and vice versa.
Now, what do we generally hide? If one were to see, generally we hide things that are possibly shameful. So transparency, I believe, is the sine qua non when there is nothing to hide. You're not shameful about something. And in a marriage relationship of importance of which I just had mentioned, I think to foster trust, to foster sense of belonging, to foster a sense of worth, communication is very critical. It's almost like the oil that we use mostly in all our cooking. There may be things that out of duties arising from profession where we are dictated not to divulge. One may not dump such data to the other. But otherwise, I think it is a way for endearing in the relationship, building companionship. And in my life, I have used it a great deal as an educative process. So I have always shared experiences. And in order to make that much more effective learning, I have had to share all the nuances, all the details of the situation, so that better understanding of the situation, the rationale, the way a decision was made, not only the way it was made, not even the reasons why those decisions were made, or even explaining the other person's response. So I have personally cultivated communication to that degree.
Now the next question is related to cultural differences. So I would just like to inform you that she grew up in the north part of India and he grew up in the southern part of India and then moved to Bombay, which is in the west. So they grew up in different scenarios. So the next question was, will cultural differences between the couple cause more problems in your relationship and will it make decision making harder?
In our situation, yes, culturally, language was one of the things because I grew up speaking Hindi more than Tamil or English, and he grew up speaking English and Tamil more than Hindi. So that was one of the major differences. And the other was, of course, the food habits. I'm more fond of vegetarian food and North Indian kind of food. And he, having grown up in South India, like that kind of food, and he was more tilting towards the non-vegetarian. But then ultimately it was more about blending together, because when I started living with him, my whole thought was how do I blend together with him. So it was not trying to establish that this is my culture, but trying to blend with what he likes and moving towards that, because that gave us a sort of a coming together, which helped us a lot.
Culture, as he said, definitely the diversity can act as a barrier to the fostering of a relationship. But yet at the same time, the immense capacity of man to have dominion over himself and his relationships also is the silver lining. Ultimately, culture is what one evolves into by the choices of values, the habits and the behaviors that one allows to remain part of oneself. So I think notwithstanding the barrier, and particularly when fundamentally the marriage institution is regarded so important and should be, a habit of fostering a culture which actually respects, regards the other individual, and to shape a way, an equation which is beneficial, empowering, is also a possibility. So I don't think we need to get stuck with what the cultures we inherited. So the diversity that culminates by the choice we make actually becomes the ground in the light of the richness ahead for one to modify, adapt, understand, respect, and allow the variety to flow in, and with those adaptations, I believe our life has created new culture. And I think that is very progressive than being stuck up with, the inherited baggage. Because in the time of marriage, it's not that you learn all about life. You're still learning. And for that matter, in our life experience, we had Jethro, whom we lost after 19 and a half years, born a cripple, couldn't speak, couldn't walk, couldn't use his hands, affected by cerebral palsy, microcephaly, bedridden. So we raised this boy for 19 and a half years. For neither of us that was part of our experience, that was neither a part of our culture, this particular situation that we faced. And therefore, as I said, we are quite capable of inventing our life. And we should be confident about our capability, we should be committed to our capability to respond to emerging situations and define a new culture. So in spite of all the challenges that we experience as a result of this very special situation, we worked out a defining culture of love, of patience, of no irritability, of support, of inventiveness, of care, of compassion, which resulted in the richness of our whole family, including our son's Jethro's life, who turned out to be a powerful means of influence around the world. So that's the magic about true love, that's the magic about true commitment. And I wish this experience understandably for all.